Diego.
Go, Landon! I'm Landon Schaefer, senior at Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I'm prepared for the draft, ready for the next chapter of my life.
Hi, I'm Todd Schaefer. I'm Landon's dad.
I'm Lisa Schaefer. I'm Landon's mom.
My name's Bo Mattingly, youth coach and longtime sportscaster in Arkansas. I met Landon Schaefer in the 5th grade. He had moved around a bunch, but you knew right away he was really good. And it's been awesome to watch him become the #1 baseball prospect in the state. The untold story of Landon Schaefer is about all the hard work, all the dedication, and from somebody like me who's been seeing it since 5th grade. The hard work, how coachable he is, to watch him have to move around as a coach's kid, put all this hard work in, happened to land in Fayetteville when his dad becomes a women's assistant basketball coach to Mike Neighbors with the Razorbacks, to now blossom into a commitment for Dave Van Horn and the Razorbacks, and Arkansas's #1 baseball prospect in the state. That's a pretty cool story. But like everyone else, there are many moments in his life that have led up to who he is today.
Moving a ton has really made me to the person I am today.
The first 17 years of our marriage, we had moved 9 times. So when the kids were little, we were moving every 24 to 36 months. Like they were little, they didn't know. We were moving daycares. Landon started kindergarten in Jonesboro. Will started kindergarten in Oxford.
Yeah, definitely moving. As a young kid, didn't want to leave my friends that much, and I had no choice but to pack up and head wherever my dad was coaching at. And so I quickly learned that I had to get over it. And my mom told me that, because in life you have to show up, and no matter how you're feeling, you have to show up every day and give your best, no matter what. Because that's not what you deserve, it's what other people deserve. Your impact on people is so much bigger than you think it is.
So we've been spoiled to have been here for the last 8 years, but the kids they've always had each other.
It was super cool to me. Living in the South most of my life and spending 10 months in Seattle, Washington was a big change for me, and it was honestly really cool, and I've really enjoyed that process in my life.
You know, when you move a lot and your dad's a coach, it's sometimes hard to have lasting friendships. But like everything else, baseball brought a really good friend into Landon's life. And I know it really had an impact on him in ways he might not have ever imagined.
Cedric Harris Jr., my best friend by large. That dude is unbelievable. Met him when I was 13 years old, and the immediate impact that he had on me was, I can't even explain it.
Unbelievable kid, unbelievable family. Cedric and CJ's grandpa, they were always at the games, and they really they didn't know each other for that many years, but the connection that they had was immediate. So they hung out a bunch, and man, they cooked out, and we'd be on the road all the time, in the summers and stuff like that. And
we met in Louisiana at a tournament. It was our first time playing with each other, and the bond was just there. It was an instant spark, and we kept talking over the phone, over tournaments, hung out all the time, and that dude was awesome. Unbelievable person, worked really hard. His family was awesome. They just were great people. I was actually driving down to my grandparents' house that day.
And it popped up on Facebook.
Landon's last, kind of report on CJ was, he had this 4-wheeler accident and in that, but that
he was better.
That he was better, and Landon was super pumped. And
then she said, CJ passed away in a ATV accident. That was hard. I was 13 years old, just lost my best friend. It kind of shook me a lot, actually. It still does to this day.
And you don't realize at the time what's going to trigger your kids or what's going to push them, what's going to make them hurt that bad. And I had no idea that it was going to have such an effect on his life then, and how much of an effect it's had on his life now, and still continues to be part of his life daily.
Yeah.
So,
But you know, the one lesson that I really took away from him was it's like your impact on people is larger than the game. It goes beyond the game. It goes beyond just being a baseball player. You know, baseball players are more than just players. We're also friends. We're family. It's just a whole bond that is unexplainable. And once you find it, like, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Yeah. So, I mean, he was my best friend. I talk to him every day and try to honor him every day that I can. And his little brother and older brother, his whole family, their whole organization, just try to pass down his message, just being a good person, and good things will happen to you.
Yeah, Landon, he references it quite a bit.
He got a tattoo.
And, yeah, he got a tattoo of it, and it was important to him. And, you know, Cedric, CJ's dad, you know, still checks in on Landon, you know.
Comes and watches.
He comes when he's in Northwest Arkansas. And so, yeah, it's been an important part. And, you know, and I think, you know, not even that deep down, but in Landon's heart, like he still tries to do some of the things that, you know, not necessarily for CJ, but like kind of for him.
And on the diamond, Dave Van Horn is always making his team better, and that's been the case this offseason on the recruiting trail, even when the Arkansas head coach is bringing in high school freshmen. That's right, freshmen. This week, Fayetteville freshman Landon Schaefer committed to Arkansas for the class of 2025.
Between his 8th and 9th grade year, because the baseball recruiting rules were way different then than they are now. So recruiting and commitments happened basically in 9th grade, maybe 10th grade if you waited, which is kind of crazy. But he was going to play here locally in a tournament, and he was going to pitch that day. And I remember Coach Hobbs coming over, and Coach lives in our neighborhood. So, you know, we were friendly with, you know, him and his wife, but, you know, weren't great friends or anything like that. He shows up in all black, no Arkansas stuff, black hat, black shirt, like goes over there, he stands by nobody, watches Landon play for, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 innings, whatever it was. And that's what it looks like. And I was like, that's what looks like, you know. It's just weird to me because in women's basketball, you don't recruit 8th graders very often, you know, so it was kind of odd. So Landon and I actually went over there for a camp maybe or something, if I remember correctly, and they asked him to come up. No, I think, yeah, they asked him to come up and visit, and, you know, like in the coaches' offices, and it was actually Coach Hobbs, and like I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you, and, you know, he basically offered Landon a scholarship, and I remember going, we hadn't even taken a high school class yet, but all right.
I was probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life, to be honest. Just the track history of Coach Van Horn and how he shaped the program and how it is now, like, it was surreal. Like, I didn't think it was real. You know, when he called me and said, hey, like, you have a real chance of playing here for us, and we want to offer you a scholarship, like, I literally blacked out. like, I was sitting there with my dad, and he was like, you all right? I was like, yeah, I'm good. It was just so surreal, and it was probably one of the most amazing things in my life.
I just think about how much he's kind of come full circle in things as he's gotten older, especially with his hunting. Like when he started out, he was Mr. Hunter, Mr. Wearing jeans, went everywhere in jeans when he was like 5, 6. Like I said, was making homemade bows and arrows, had a real bow and arrow. He shot at an armadillo one time with a bow and arrow with Uncle Lloyd. And then we got sports heavy with things, but now he's back to hunting, and like he doesn't own a gun, he owns a bow and arrow, and that's what he likes to do things with.
A guy named Marco Cunningham, who coached this really famous team at that age called the Alamo Drillers, unbeknownst to me and Landon, came and watched him play.
Yeah, Marco found me in a parking lot. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but we were playing in a tournament. We had a rain delay, and he found me in the parking lot, and he was like, "Hey, dude, you want to come play for me?" Like, I was a big kid, like 13. I was like 6 foot, and just a long, lanky, giraffe-looking kid, and I played for him, and immediately he took me under his wing, like I was one of his own.
I knew who he was just because I knew who his son was, and Landon exactly knew who he was, and he invited Landon to play on his team.
When first time I saw Landon, you'd hear about this kid. You know, he's tall, athletic, the competitiveness of youth baseball. You kind of start hearing about other players that are, you know, good. And I think Landon, you know, he was tall, athletic, and he threw the ball really hard. And he was an athletic kid who could play infield and hit.
He went, man, this is so much fun. These guys are so good, like both the competition, his teammates, and, you know, playing with the drillers, you know, that particular summer.
And so that was definitely a piece for us, like as a dad for my son, hey, I want to get that kid on my team because that's not only going to make my son better, but it's going to make him better. It's going to make our team better. And, you know, Landon's such a great kid. And, you know, instantly it was like family for us. You know, my son and him became really close friends. You know, their family is a very competitive family like ours. And it's very hard to find families that are, sometimes we kind of rub off the wrong way with some people. And if you know Todd and Lisa, those folks are they're like family to us, but not everybody likes that. You know, not everybody likes the competitive nature, and that's just who we are, and that's why we love that family. And I consider Landon like a nephew to me, and my son figures him like a brother, and my wife loves, you know, Landon and that family. And so we just grew up in it. And now you see a lot of those same kids doing some great things, you know, at the end of their high school careers and going on to what's next, either college or pro ball, but they have opportunities because of that competitive foundation that they were built on.
Having two parents that played collegiate sports and grew up in pretty good households, it was very tough growing up. Me and my parents had some battles growing up. They always put me in my place when I didn't have all A's or B's, and my mom was sure to know that if I had a C that, you know, that wasn't all right. And my dad was always there to put me in my place when I was acting out on the field or just being emotional for no reason. They've shaped me into the man that I am today. And, you know, during those struggles, like I really didn't like them. But looking back at it now, they were doing it for a good reason, and they do everything for a good reason. So if you're a younger kid watching this, always listen to your parents because they know what's best. And just learning to, like, you know, they're not just your parents, they're your friends. And just having those talks with them about life, about anything, and they're always there for you whenever you need them.
I don't want to say it hasn't been challenging, but it really hasn't been that hard in terms of like the motivation piece. One of the things that we talk to the boys about is just making sure that whatever you're passionate about, like whatever it is, making sure that your dreams and your commitment to that are in alignment. Because if like your dreams are way up here and your goals are way up here, but your commitment's like way down here, well then like that's not going to work. So I'm probably most proud of that people don't see is like how hard he works. Mm-hmm. Like I don't think you can even know, and how easy it's been for him to develop the passion to want to do the things like leave here at 5:30 in the morning 3 or 4 days a week for the last two and a half years to get up and lift before school. He does that on his own because he wants to do it. And, you know,
lifting after games
on Monday nights because he's got another one on Tuesday, like just stuff like that, like people don't see. You know, it's kind of that, you know, it's at work, you know, when the lights are off, you know, as they say, and you know, Landon's not a big poster about himself and stuff like that, which is, you know, something that we tried to, you know, install in him, that, you know, there's enough pressure on everybody out there. If you start promoting yourself and that, you're just adding to the expectations and the pressure. But yeah, you know, it's been a really good journey so far. Obviously, we're far from it being over, but you know, he's super passionate about the game of baseball. He's super passionate about Fayetteville High School baseball, and you know, he loves his friends. When somebody loves something like he does, the game of baseball, it's not that hard to keep him motivated, to your point. Like, it's not that hard. And that's why I feel really good about his future, and who knows how long he'll play or what level he's going to get to, but like, he will maximize that just because it's, like you've said before in this interview, it's not work to him. It's literally fun.
What's interesting about an athlete like Landon, he has options. He's committed to play for Arkansas. The Razorbacks are a great program. That would be a lot of fun. But I know he wants to be a professional baseball player, and he's likely to get drafted in the MLB amateur draft in July. So what does he do? Either way, I think he's prepared for the next step.
You know, I haven't made a decision. That decision's not up to me. But, you know, whatever God has in store for me is what I'm going to do and what I'm going to pursue. And I'm just going to leave it all up in his hands, and because he knows what's best for me. So, yeah, I have no plan. Just going to go with the flow.